girls, I'm here today to talk about the books coming out in April that I'm very excited about. So I usually try and do this for each quarter. There's just way too many books coming out in the next 3 months that I want to talk about, so I've decided to split it month by month. Lucky you. So I know I'm not going to be able to get to all these books in the month they're released because there's too many of them, but I am excited about all of them and I will be pre-ordering some of them and waiting to hear more reviews on others, but do let me know down below if you had any of these on your TBR. So the first one is Empire of Wild by Sherry Demmeline. Sherry Demmeline is a Métis writer who's based in Ontario in Canada, and I've wanted to pick up her previous novels and never got around to it. But as soon as I heard about this one, I believe it was released in North America last year, I added it to my list and was very happy to see that it was getting a UK release date. This is about a woman whose husband goes missing. He's been missing for more than a year, and one day she is drawn to a preacher who's preaching in a revivalist tent, and lots of Métis people are being drawn to hear him talk. And when she arrives, she realises that he is her missing husband, but he denies that and says that he's someone else entirely. So she gets the help of a couple of friends and they start to do this sort of investigation, and it says this is a very sensuous novel focused around Métis folklore and myth, and I think it sounds wonderful. And then we have the beautiful Sister Song by Lucy Holland. I'm so excited for this one. So this is a fantasy set in ancient Britain, and you may know that I recently read another fantasy novel set in ancient Britain that I thought had its flaws, but I really loved the setting and became super interested in wanting to read more about this. This one is based on the folk ballad of the two sisters, and we follow 3 sisters who are being kept hidden away, I think, by their father, and as the Roman invasion looms, they find their powers and come together and some great adventure ensues, and I think there's lots of magic and mysticism. I just so want more fantasy books to be released about this time period. I think there's so much to offer, and yeah, I just really loved living in that time period, and this one sounds excellent, especially that it's focused on 3 women. Then we have the non-fiction release 50 Sounds by Polly Barton. You may recognise Polly Barton's name because she is a translator from quite a lot of contemporary Japanese novels. So Polly moved to Japan at the age of 21 and then later became a translator, and this book is her talking about 50 sounds that she learned by being a translator, and how that connects to, I guess, her connection with Japan, the country and the culture and the language. And I think this sounds really interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to picking this one up. The next one is The Colour of God by Ayesha S. Chowdhury, and I'm going to read you the blurb on this one because I just can't describe it better myself. And that is, this is the story of a child raised in Canada by parents who embraced a puritanical version of Islam to shield them from racism. The author explores the joys and sorrows of growing up in a fundamentalist Muslim household, wedding grand historical narratives of colonialism and migration to the small, intimate heartbreaks of modern life. In revisiting the beliefs and ideals she was raised with, Chowdhury invites us to reimagine our ideas of self and family, state and citizenship, love and loss. I think that sounds amazing, and this has blurbs by so many great authors saying they thought it was phenomenal, so can't wait for this one. And then we have the beautiful, this is one of the best covers I've ever seen, Lonely Castle in the Mirror. This is written by Mizuki Suzumura. I apologise if I said that wrong, and it's translated by Philip Gabriel. This sounds wonderful. I think this could be YA, although I'm not entirely sure, but this is a fantastical novel. It says it weaves fairy tale and magic. In a tranquil neighbourhood of Tokyo, 7 teenagers wake to find their bedroom mirrors shining, and they step through their mirrors into this magical world filled with castles, but it says there's a catch. If they don't leave the castle by 5 o'clock, they will be punished. And it says, as time passes, a devastating truth emerges. Only those brave enough to share their stories will be saved. So this one sounds very fantastical and perhaps a little bit spooky, and I'm assuming this is going to have some commentary on contemporary Tokyo and what it's like for teenagers to live there weaved into this story. It sounds wonderful, and I obviously can't wait to read it. And then we have the 7 Necessary Sins for Women and Girls by Mona El Tahawi, and I loved her essay in It's Not About the Burqa. It was probably my favourite essay in there, and in this she writes an essay on each of what she thinks are the 7 sins that we talk about a lot in culture to do with women and girls. Those are anger, attention, profanity, ambition, power, violence and lust. And it says throughout these essays she creates a stunning manifesto for women to disrupt the patriarchy and allow themselves to live these sins. So yeah, I think it sounds amazing, and like I said, I really enjoyed her writing in It's Not About the Burqa. And then a book that's super unlikely for me to put on a list of books I'm excited about is Male Tears by Benjamin Myers. I don't read many books by male authors, particularly fiction, and this one is very much focused on the male experience as it relates to toxic masculinity, and that is when really I am interested in the male voice. Now, I haven't read any of Benjamin Myers' fiction, and I always think I will love it. I did pick up his memoir and I DNF'd it halfway through, but I could sense that there was a voice in there that I would enjoy. There were just elements of the memoir that I didn't like. But this says it spans 15 years of his writing and pulls together short stories that follow lots of different men who sound like they're in quite masculine careers. So, for example, it says farmers, fairground workers, wandering pilgrims, gruesome gamekeepers, bare-knuckle boxers, and ex-cons with secret passions. It says this is a multifaceted, era-spanning portrait of just what it means to be a man. So yeah, like I said, I think his writing style was beautiful in his memoir, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he handles this collection of short stories. The next one is Call Baby by Morgan Jerkyn. So I've previously read her first essay collection and I plan to read her memoir this month. This is her first novel, and it sounds really interesting. So this is about a woman who has attempted to have a child and hasn't been able to. So she decides to contact a very old and sort of mysterious Harlem family and ask them if they will let her use their call, which they say has sort of abilities to allow her to have a baby. It doesn't work, but one of the members of the family, one of the young members of the family, does have a child that is raised by the family as a whole and not by their biological mother. And then we follow that baby, that young woman, as she grows up and realises there's elements to her family that are a bit dark and mysterious, and there's lots of secrets, and she's very restricted to the house and very protected because I think they believe her to be, I guess, magical, and we follow her as all this unravels. This sounds fascinating, and I guess not at all what I thought Morgan Jerkyn's would come out with, because it sounds on the one hand like a really interesting family drama with lots of really interesting commentary, but on the other hand it sounds a little bit fantastical, which isn't what I was expecting, but I'm always interested in the blend between family drama focused writing with an element of like belief and or fantasy. So looking forward to this one. And then we have Lean Full Stand by John McGregor, another man, I know what's happening. So I previously read Reservoir 13 by John McGregor and I really enjoyed it. It was a novel that was pieced together with vignettes of a group of people who lived in this valley in the years following the disappearance of a young girl, and I thought it was fantastic, beautifully written. And this one sounds really intriguing as well. So we follow a failed Antarctic expedition, and we follow the men who are on that expedition and also their families back home, and the men obviously know more about what's happened and the families back home don't, and it says this is a commentary on sacrifice and survival and what we're willing to give up. I pretty much read anything he released after Reservoir 13 because I thought it was phenomenally written, but this one in particular sounds really interesting to me. Anything that involves an Antarctic expedition I want to read, basically, so looking forward to this one. And then we have a memoir that's called I Belong Here, A Journey Along the Backbone of Britain by Anita Sethi. This sounds amazing. This was supposed to come out last year and it's been delayed because of, you know, everything that's happened with publishing, and I have been eagerly anticipating it. So we have a lot of like natural science based books published, but they're usually very male and nearly always very white. And I think it's really exciting to see a book that's focused on the natural landscape released by a woman of colour in the UK. So this follows Anita as after a horrifically violent racial attack she starts to struggle with panic attacks and really struggle with enclosed spaces. And so she decides to go on like an expedition across the Pennines and travel in these wide open spaces to try and survive and live with what's happened to her and find her place and say, you know, I belong here, I am British. And this sounds absolutely fascinating. I always find commentary to do with place and belonging really interesting, but I also really love nature writing, especially when it's focused in the north. So yeah, Can't wait for this one. And then lastly, I have another non-fiction, and that is Southbound, Essays on Identity, Inheritance and Social Change by Anjali Enjeti. And again, I'm going to read you a bit of the blurb because I won't be able to do it justice. This is a move at age 10 from a Detroit suburb to Chattanooga, probably said that wrong, in 1984 thrusts Anjali Enjeti into what feels like a new world replete with Confederate flags, Bible verses and whiteness. It is here that she learns how to get her bearings as a mixed-race brown girl in the Deep South and begins to understand how identity can inspire, inform and shape a commitment to activism. And the 20 essays of this debut collection tackle white feminism at a national feminist organisation, the early years of the AIDS epidemic in the South, voter suppression, gun violence and the gun sense movement, the whitewashing of Southern literature, the 1982 racialised killing of Vincent Chin, social media's role in political accountability, evangelical Christianity's marriage to extremism, and the rise of nationalism worldwide. I mean, that all sounds completely fascinating, obviously very serious, and it's probably going to be a difficult read, but one I really want to pick up and I hope to hear more people talk about. So yeah, those are all the books I'm excited about that are coming out in April. I have a mixture here of UK release dates and also US release dates. I tend to feature books that are US release dates when I'm not that confident they'll be picked up in the UK, and so there's a bit of a mixture here. Let me know, like I said, if you have any of these books on your pre-order list, and if you didn't have and you like the sound of them, do let me know. And also let me know if you think I'm missing any books that I should have on my pre-order list for April. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!